Hello everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 417. Today is Saturday, June 25th, 2022, and I'm glad you could join me today. It's a sunny and foggy day today. I have not yet been outside. Maybe I should, because it looks pretty nice out. But we'll figure something out. I need to go to the grocery store and pick up half and half, because we're drinking ice cream coffee today. It's fair, I didn't put half and half on the grocery list, so. It's not totally unreasonable, but what would it be? Like, it's been a little bit of a week. Like, last week was also a week, but in like a fun festive way. Yeah, so, or would it be? So it'd be the case where this week it was a little bit hard because the whole family came down with norovirus. So what I thought was just a sleepy little chill, not very hungry baby, last weekend was in fact a sick baby. And yeah, he gave it to everyone. Okay, my grandparents didn't get it, thanks. But everyone else. And while he manifests this illness as being like a little bit off eating and sleeping a ton, the rest of us manifested it in the usual way. So, it means there wasn't a whole lot of knitting or spinning this week because I spent the entirety of Monday in bed. And then Tuesday was like rebooting the digestive system, and then I actually managed to work a super long day on Wednesday. So, as you do. So, I don't know. Any knitting that was accomplished is probably just icing on the cake at this point. And it was the case where perhaps we knew that something was like a little bit strange because I was visiting with my grandparents on Sunday, and they were like, she was like, "You haven't taken out your knitting." I was like, "Yeah, no, I have to take care of a lot of people right now." So, but I think we're back. We're drinking coffee. Maybe we'll eat food tonight that is not super duper mild and easy. We'll see. And I think maybe as a result, or maybe not, who knows, but I didn't end up finishing anything this week, even though it did seem promising. And I guess we can start with that. I do not have the project in the easily shared state, but I do have it in the I've finished knitting off one of the needles state, which is festive enough. I turned my circulars into bendy fixed needles by putting the little cable stop on the bottom so that I could try it on more easily. But this is the Water Bearer cardigan, which is a Jacqueline Cieslak design. She actually just came out with a new design on Friday. But here's the back side, which is actually all me. I put her chart on the back. And then the front is the brioche shawl collar with the stockinette body. So when I was packing for the trip, Wednesday night, maybe Tuesday, but probably Wednesday night, I pulled out the trusty scale that's been used for weighing bottles lately instead of yarn, such as life. And I weighed how much yarn I had left, and I had 35 grams. And for a 585-gram sweater, it did not make sense to lug all of that sweater to and fro, because it wasn't going to be very much knitting enjoyment. There wasn't much knitting enjoyment remaining on the sweater as of last Thursday. That did not mean that after I got back home I did finish. So it's still on the needles. And honestly, I've made a bit of a mess. Like, I don't feel like I've knit too much more of the 35 grams since then. So let's see. Like, I did knit some. Like, what would it be? So like we've knit this much sweater. So that might be like another 2 inches I've whacked on since then. I don't think I even bothered. See, my spinning wheel is on top of, or actually my Lazy Kate is on top of the yarn, so I can't like reel it in. But so like there's another 2 inches of body on that. Like, I want to say I was saying it was like 11 last week from the armpit, so now we're probably closer to 13. I don't think it's going to end up being 18, but like I'm just looking at like this ball right here and I'm like, oh yeah, no, well, I guess I'm pulling from the middle, so that can be deceptive, but like there's still sweater to go. What's likely gonna happen, I don't know, I might need to start weighing more regularly. Get a sense of like the there and back row so that I can decide how much I want to, or decide at some point like, okay, if a row takes this much yarn, then my I-cord bind off is going to take that much yarn, and then I guess account for a whole border of I-cord around, because at the end of the day, I was not neat enough with my color changes. I did not hide them in a sneaky place. It should have been an integrated I-cord. Like, the odds of me knitting this again are low, just because I don't tend to knit sweaters again. But if I did knit it again, I would integrate the I-cord. I would. Because now, or would it be? Because it's my impulse to use every last bit of yarn running into the ambiguity of how much yarn it takes to do an applied I-cord all the way around the sweater. Definitely driving the yarn chicken fiend in me a little crazy. But, and I'm pretty sure I ended up using, or would it be the case where I ended up probably using more yarn in the body because I decided to do the brioche back. Oh, I don't regret doing the brioche back. I think it looks fantabulous. So, but it just means I don't think I'm going to be displeased with the final length of the sweater at this point. I'm just trying to devote as much of the yarn as possible to reaching that end. And I did really think that I would be done with this week, but maybe next week. Who knows? As you do. But what did end up getting a lot of love, So I had to make that judgment call, right? Whereas like, no, I can't take a 90% done sweater with me on an airplane trip because I will run out of knitting. So the other complication was that by having a little baby with us, lap babies don't get personal items, and babies have diaper bags, and they're very important to the cleanliness and sanitariness of everyone with the baby. I probably should just call this episode personal item. I'm not sure what strange things my video will be recommended with if I do that, but it's worth it. So, I knew that I would be taking my DFW Fiberfest blue duffel bag. All of my bags are blue. There is a caveat in the airplane regulations in which a breast pump and breast milk do not count as a personal item, so we shamelessly took advantage of that, and I'm really glad. But we almost lost the bag too. Whatever. We weren't prepared for that. But then that meant my spouse's personal item had to be the diaper bag, which it seemed like he did fairly well. I just stashed his headphones and he entertained himself with the in-flight entertainment. No big deal. But I also had like a portable playmat in the DFW Fiberhouse bag, which then limited how much knitting I could bring out the trip. On the way back, because we had used diapers, there was more room in the suitcase, so I stashed it there, which was nice. But on the way out, in my blue duffel bag, I had a playmat, which was not super duper big, but still took up space. My purse, 2 sets of noise canceling headphones, so not like little skinny strappy ones, like big over the ear kind. And then I brought my spinning project. I brought the hat project that I didn't end up starting. Whatever. It's a thought that captured. And then I ended up bringing this one, and this is what I worked up for the most part. Which you're like, Molly, what are you thinking? Bringing a beaded lace project onto an airplane. It was fine. I did not lose. Maybe I lost 1 bead, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not too shabby. And in terms of knitting enjoyment, we are smack dab in the middle of a row right now. Are we smack dab in the middle of a bead row? We're in the middle of the we're in the middle of the purl back row after the bead row. Much better, much better. So not too shabby. So I managed to get two bead rows done on airplanes. Should get like a merit badge or something. One of them on the way there, and one of them on the way back. So not too shabby. But okay. And then working the non-beaded pattern rows from there. I even managed to execute a whole bead row while wearing a baby. So that was nice. So yeah, no, would this normally have been well, what would it be? If I hadn't brought a baby with me, would I have selected this specific project? That's probably fine. would it be? Like, maybe having all those beats would have given me pause. What would have made my life a lot easier is if I had, so I think I managed to get through like half a row with the beads that I had strung on my super floss. So the crochet hook that I'm using to bead with is the not ideal one. So I can fit at most 2 beads on it at a time. And the head very subtly interferes sometimes. So it'd be the case where sometimes, or would it be? There's definitely a collection of beads in which there is a clear opening, but the crochet hook is a little bit too big in order to pass through in order to properly bead. But super floss can deal with those beads. So at some point I had decided to string all those beads onto super floss and start working them in, and that's what I ended up doing on the flight to Michigan. And then when I ran out, I switched back to my crochet hook because I couldn't quite figure out how I was going to string the super floss on the airplane without losing a bunch of stuff. Whereas I could open the tube, stick my hook in, grab 1 or 2 beads, close the tube, and move on. Which meant it was like, I don't know, the bead was always tedious. So that's what I ended up doing. And so that means that, what would it be? We're now on the 11th pattern repeat of the shawl. I will need to probably do another weigh in and check and see where I am in terms of yarn usage, if I'm still holding steady at 14 pattern repeats before I start the border. Like, it seems like so far so good. Like, my yarn usage has been subtly creeping up with every row, which I find maybe to be interesting. So I don't know if that's because I am relaxing more, or who knows. It's really unclear. But sort of my benchmark of my calculation of how many total stitches have been knit versus how much yarn I've used so far indicates that, or would it be? And then that ends up coming to a very small number of like how many grams of yarn per stitch there are. So perhaps that's just too itty bitty a number. So that initial estimate of how many grams of yarn per stitch was not good when there were 5 repeats into the shawl, as opposed to now when there are whatever 10 whole repeats in the shawl, with it growing ever larger. I don't know. Oh, looks so good, doesn't it? Especially in places where you have like the darker folding on the darker, so you could see the colors better. But I am wearing white, so that does help in making everything look a little bit more clear. But like, it's still looking pretty good. It's sort of like a Pharaoh's shape, so it'd be the case where I do have center spine increases, but I have double increases on the ends, so that means I'm adding 6 stitches per row, or 6 stitches per right side row, whereas a triangle shawl would be 4 stitches per right side row. I'm trying to be pretty diligent about making sure my computer doesn't fall asleep, because last week the audio got corrupted. And I've tried a couple of times to fix that video, but it has not worked. What's crazy making is that the 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 file that I'm editing from appears to be fine and plays back just fine on the computer, but then when I save it as an MP4 file, something dreadful happens. The audio is just slowly but surely getting out of sync. Let's hope that doesn't happen this week. It's possible that my computer was in a little bit of a rough state. I ended up doing like a full restart on it, so it's possible that the recording itself got corrupted. And I'm not re-recording last week's episode, or 2 weeks ago's episode, so it's not like it's garbled, it's just that what I'm showing is not synced with what I'm saying. So, like, I don't know, I've tried like 3 times to try to fix it, and they're just like, okay, something terrible has happened, I cannot rectify this. So, have to make sure my computer doesn't fall asleep. I don't know if I can add this program to the list of things that forces the computer to stay on and engaged. I don't know. I'll look and clear. So, what do we? I don't know if I ended up discussing this last week, but I have attempted to interpret from the chart how many beads I have been using versus how those beads go into the next repeat of the pattern. And I like cannot get the math to work. And also I was misinterpreting the chart a little bit, so it's the case where where would it be? The chart doesn't use standard symbols, so the blank white squares are actually like a no stitch. And maybe there is something wrong with the with the final stitch counts. Because there might be something wrong with the final stitch counts, because it didn't seem like when I counted stitches across that it added up to a sensible number to me. So it's probably possible to construct. I know. See, that's the interesting thing. Maybe it's possible to construct like more standard charts, but I think the furrow shape ends up making it a little challenging in order to make everything stack nice. So it makes it pretty hard in that edge region in order to make everything look good. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure how to fix that problem. Though at some point I am running out of beads, and then I will need to order more. Not that and then it was the case where I think I had something off with my bead calculation, because like 2 charts end up making up the repeat, and one of those charts adds like 4 beads to the shawl, and the other one just adds 2. I think just because of like how the pattern nests into itself. So I need to make sure all of that is right and that sort of thing. So I don't, like, at the end of the day, I just need to put together like a rough estimate of about how many more I need. I don't think the bead density is quite as high in the rest of the shawl, but there's definitely beads to be placed. Hopefully there's a couple more rows in between bead placement rows, just for my own sanity. But I don't know, whatever. So, and then I don't know, it would be the case where I need to like sit down and weigh out with these specific beads, like how many adds up to, what would it be, whether it's like I pour out 1 gram of beads and then count out how many beads that ends up being, or I just deal with the estimate. I think it was the case where I needed it was like over 250 beads per tube, and I needed 700 some beads for the shawl pattern as written. And then when I sort of look at my charts and that sort of thing, it'd be the case where it's probably clocking in to like double that, roughly speaking, maybe triple. So I don't know. We'll have to see how things end up working out. But it is like slightly, like on one hand, it's not that important. But I think because I'm doing all like this yarn weight calculation, it's like, but wait, the numbers don't work out. The number of repeats do not evenly go into my stitch counts. Has something gone wrong here? So that's my worry. Because if my stitch counts are a little wonky from some earlier step, I don't know whether or not that'll feed into problems later. Like if it turned out I was really adding 8 stitches per row or something, but I'm not. So this row is finished. I am almost done with, I think this is the first chart repeat 11. So I'm getting pretty close to being done adding body to this, and I think it's now getting to be a good, or it is now like a good size shawl. Let's see if we, I'm sort of blowing out a little bit when you do this, but it's turning out lovely. The cake dyeing definitely does add, the way that I ended up cake dyeing this does add some pretty good dimension to the shawl, so it'd be the case where now that I'm sort of in this body material where the dye had a harder time penetrating, I'm getting sort of more of a semi-solid appearance with blips where it's a little bit more blue leaning, and then places where you can see much more of the springy green instead of like the teal at the very edge here. And I definitely have plenty more of sort of this green portion of the yarn before it starts darkening again into the darker teal. And then this should finish with sort of a longer section of the darker teal, though it may not look that way on the shawl because the stitch count is so much higher now. But like, the tonality isn't taking away from anything. I think it ends up adding a nice complexity to it. And then in terms of how much shawl I actually knit, see, and this is whatever. So, like, this might be a whole inch of shawl. 2 pattern repeats. Yeah, I don't even have anything in my bag that I can use to share. But here's my marker. Here's my needle. I was like, do we have to bring the? Yeah, you can more clearly see there. So I have made some progress, but this shawl's progress is hard fought. So I'll have to. I brought my scale in here to weigh, but I may just end up weighing after it's over and updating the Ravelry totals then. My future projects remain uncast on and the same. I was contemplating if I wanted to wind the yarn for the simple project and then ran out of time. So, but there's only so much you can do when you're out of time. So I have the merino cashmere silk 1898 hat that should be all ready to go aside from having the pattern ready. And then I have the Plymouth Viento, which is baby, or is it just a Surrey alpaca? It is a baby alpaca bamboo blend, and it's a chain knit construction yarn. Oh, did I show this last time? I'm knitting a sample for the Black Squirrel Berkeley because the Black Squirrel makes it worth your time. So I asked for a simple project. It's going to be a bigger than life knits design, which I think I talked about this. I have, these are 50-gram skeins and I have 5 skeins, and it should be a pleasant, easy knit, and I really should wind the yarn so I have no excuse and can get it cast on and all of that fun stuff. We'll laugh a little bit because bamboo is viscose. They just turn bamboo into plastic, guys. But it is very soft and fluffy and lovely, so it'll be a pleasant knit. So I just need to whatever, find the time, block out a little time to make that happen. Or what's likely going to happen is I need to make some bats for Tour de Fleece because that starts next week. So I should probably do something this weekend in order to make that happen. But the desk is covered in various bits of paperwork that need to be handled. That's a barrier. So some of it just straight up needs to be filed. Some of it needs to actually have action done upon it. Some of it just needs to be cleaned. But I think once I get the desk cleared, then I can go ahead and play mad scientist with that. And that's actually the last item for Spin the Bin. So pull down the box. So I have this fin, which I have dyed in blues and grays. Mostly it's sapphire. There's just a little bit of darkness there. And then I have this Hello Yarn 70s Merino top in sap, And so this has like yellows, browns, teals, and a lot of blue as well. So I think that these will end up blending really nicely. And what I'm debating right now, based on sort of the results of my current spin, I may end up throwing in some lighter color wool into it as well, and may end up like I might end up taking, because I have like 8 ounces of BFL. I have 8 ounces of clean but unprocessed, I have clean BFL wax. There we go. But I might take something else too. I don't know. Something undyed in the stash somewhere in there. Definitely have a small supply at the very least. Even have like I have my like I don't know. I may not have enough to make a difference there, but I have like a baggie of like baby mohair logs. That I wasn't planning on making into art yarn. Might throw a little bit in there. And so the challenges finally came out for the Fun Onion group's Tour de Fleece. And this is like the primary challenge the group does, since they have a big Tour de Fleece spin-off. And so this year, the theme is New Orleans. Nolans. And that means that, or would be, so it'd be the case where the challenge that I will be doing is voodoo, and I'm making a voodoo yarn. So I found some inspiration photos that match the colors I'm already planning on using. Because I always know with the Fun Onion challenge that I can take what I was intending on spinning anyways and fit it into something. And maybe I can also like double dip to a certain extent. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. One of the challenges is take a little bit of every bit of fiber you have and combine it together. But the challenge that I'm doing is to make voodoo bats and whatever, make it into some sort of voodoo sweater. So, well, I'm planning on doing a sweater spin. And then also what's going on there is if I decide that I make it heavier weight yarn, then I'll need more than 16 ounces in order to do that. So that's why I'm thinking about that. But it's coming. It's coming. So in exciting news, I did finish the singles of the project I've been working on since last July. So we are almost done talking about it. So this is Hobbledehoy Bat. I had 2 ounces of the Gandalf colorway, 2 ounces of the Voyager colorway, and then I ended up adding it to 4 ounces of Merino Angora that I got from Bungalow Farms Angora. And I dyed it blurple, or I dyed the Merino Angora blurple. And then tried combo spinning it, didn't work. Turned them into bats, that did work. Worked on the spindle project continuously for, I don't know, probably, I was spindle spinning for a good 11 months on and off. Maybe a lot more off than on, but whatever. But at long last, would it be the case where sort of kicked my butt into gear, spun on the Voyager half reasonably quickly on the wheel, And then after I finished that, then I started working on the Gandalf half. But I did bring the spindle project with me to Michigan. I managed to break the tip off another one of my Jenkins shafts. That's what I get for not keeping the spindle in an explicit hard-sided container. That I really need to do that. But whatever. It still works. I'm not too worried about it. That's my bad. So I managed to finish working on that bit of fluff, and the rest of it ended up on the wheel. And I'm plying now. Ooh, it's gonna be a bit of a mess later. So here are my Voyager ones, which are the blurple with sort of blue, and then this is my Gandalf one, which is the silver with the blurple. I think the bobbin colors are also influencing the color that we end up seeing. But I was letting these singles rest, which is why I was plying off of the other two guys, but you can see. So there are all sorts of fun Sari silk inclusions in the Voyager one, and then the Gandalf ones had smooth colored silk in it. So every little batling had like a slightly different color in it. And then this is what remains of the last cup I was spinning on. So after I finish incorporating this, I'll start applying the bobbin in. And then to wrap up, this is the cup I haven't started applying from. But I have the end of this clearly out, so that means that when I run out of something, it'll be easy to incorporate both ends. I won't have to go fishing too hard in order to make that happen. So my little turtle shell. So, and it is plying up gorgeous. So this is how it's going together. I don't know whether or not I can even really get this close enough to the camera to show. It may not be possible to get close enough to the camera to show, but the gray really makes it. Yeah, no, the lighter tone in there, I think, makes it a much more interesting yarn, which is why that I'm thinking of blending bats that have a little bit more light in them instead of all jewel tone all the time. So, because it is pretty. So the goal here is to get this off the wheel before next week, which I think is a very doable sort of goal. That means this weekend I need to finish making my bats. I need to start and finish making my bats. So that I'll be ready to start wheel spinning this. And then we'll see how quickly I manage to get through all of that. I think my game plan will be 4-ply like this. The thought process being that I would like to make thicker yarn, so maybe it's even 5-ply. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I wrote a piece like if I aim for a situation in which I have 5 bobbins, 4 ounces on each bobbin, like that's totally doable. Will it be done by the end of Tour de Fleece? That's not That's not super important in my mind. What is, whatever, more important is just sort of continuing to refine my skills on this for my eventual Romney project. There we go. So all just what would it be? A slow, steady process of figuring out and making it happen. So should be fun. I just need to figure out what one of my groups of fiber makes sense. Pretty flexible in the grand scheme of things. Also, it'd be the case where I'm also just sort of rattling around my mind. It's like, oh, and I also have this fiber, and if I combine this and that together, then I could, whatever. There's definitely a lovely creative rabbit hole that ends up following from that, which is fine. It'll be interesting to see how, yeah, this project that I'm finishing right now is last year's Trigger Police project. I can't remember if I finished any projects for that in the time. I can't remember. I'll have to look back at old posts. I would say, like, or would it be, when I'm, like, really on my spinning game, like, I can do 8 ounces in a month. So, 16 is, or 20 is very unreasonable. As long as I say that, it makes more sense. On top of being in a situation where sometimes knitting is a little bit easier to do. But, I don't know, it's good to get back into the wheel spinning. That feels good. I ended up running into like a little bit of a roadblock because I have fixed my band twice. My spouse has fixed it once, and the time it ended up popping again. So it's sort of the case where, like, okay, this tubing has been too sun damaged in order to hold together anymore. So I pulled out the other band I got when I got my wheel in 2014 and popped that on, and then I need to order a spare. Like, I can probably do yarn or cotton at pinch, but I would rather not. I know, like, I don't know if that ends up being the problem for the Lindem or not, but I'll just order 1 or 2 more poly bands and maybe figure out if there's any other tools or fiber that I end up being interested in. Might also look around a little bit and see if I can't pick it up from somewhere else, because it feels a little silly to order something that would be probably equal shipping price plus the item price. So that's the problem with some of these items, right? Is it can get pricey to mail. And maybe I look around and buy from somewhere else other than the Woolery, but I do like the Woolery. So there's that. But that's sort of where things are at right now. Two things very close to being finished, and two things that are very close to being cast on, and one thing that needs a lot of work done before I'm ready for next week. But it might be fun and festive. I think we're gonna do a virtual spin-in for the Funning Onion group, and I'll get a head start onto my final spin the bin spin, and then this one will be done. So we'll probably catch up to where I was intending to be at the halfway point for the year. So that's solid. Yeah. Should be good. Get outside, enjoy the beautiful day. Call it good. I think things do look good for recording next week. I don't know if it'll be a Saturday versus Sunday recording, but we'll just play it by ear. And then I will need to figure out if I need to change up the recording schedule moving forward. So that's just whatever. Like, viewers weigh in. I don't know if I should switch to a 2-week schedule just as I transition back to work and add one more thing to the list. So we shall see. Or it turns out I have more editing time than I thought. Hard to tell. So, with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So, take care, guys. Bye-bye.